Hello friends, my name is Kumar and welcome back to our channel Kumar Programming. This is the fourth part of Docker series where we are going to learn about Docker file, Docker image and Docker container. So first of all, we will create a very basic application in HTML, CSS and JavaScript, and for that application we will create a Docker file, and once Docker file is created, then from that Docker file we will build an image, and once image is ready, then we will run that image as a container inside our Docker, right? And also I'll try to create a very basic Angular as well as Node application, and we'll create the Docker file, image and container for those applications as well. So the whole purpose of this video is to show you that how we can create the Docker file for the multiple technologies, and this Docker file is completely independent on our code or technologies that we are using, and this Docker file can be written on top of any technology, and we will learn each and everything step by step with the practical demonstration. So now let's start. But before starting, there is a humble request to all of you. If you have not subscribed this channel, please subscribe it and press the bell icon so you will get the notification of all of my upcoming videos. And also please share your feedback in the comment section. So now without much more wasting time on it, let's start. So now let's flip to the Visual Studio. Here in Visual Studio, I have created a brand new application as a Docker HTML app. So we are starting with the basic HTML application. So first of all, I'll create some of the HTML files, CSS and JavaScript. And then after that, we will create a Docker file for our application, right? So now let's start. So here I'll create an index file, index.html. That would be our main page. And here in our index file, we are going to use the HTML template. So I'll just give an exclamation sign and then I'll press tab. So here you will get the basic format of our HTML, where we will get the HTML tag, and inside the HTML tag we will get the head and we will get the body, right? So here we'll use the bootstrap to just have the styling for our application. So now let's go to the Google, and here I'll just search for bootstrap, and this is the official website for the bootstrap we have. Now here you can search for the CDN, right? Because we are going to use the CDN link for bootstrap. So here you can see they are using the CSS CDN link, and this is for JavaScript CDN link. They have given separately over here, but we will use the whole template. So let's copy it from here and we will replace it with our complete template. So now we are using CSS and this JavaScript from our bootstrap now, and we will use as a header as a navigation bar. So now let's search for the nav bar here. So we can use this one. Yeah, this looks good. So we'll copy it and we will paste inside our body, right? We will replace this nav bar with HTML lab, right? And then we will use this home link and we will use this link as a contact, and rest of the things is not required actually. And also we will remove this search or keep as it is. Okay, so now we can see, let's see how our application is look like. So this is running on port 55. So now this is running on port 5500, right? Now let's give it as a BG warning. So yeah, now it's looks better. And also we will try to add the navigation for home and contact page. So once user will click on home page, we will show the home page over here, and once user click on the contact page, so user will see the contact detail over here, right? So now let's add one more page over here as a home page and contact page. So this index.html is our root page. So now we will create a one more HTML page here. So home.html, and here we give as inside h1 tag we will give as a home page, and we'll create another page as a contact.html, right? And here we will give as a h1 tag, and inside this h1 tag we will give as a contact page, right? Now inside this index page we will write some JavaScript. So we will give inside our script tag. So what I want to do here, once user click on this home link, then we would be able to redirect to the home page, and once user click on the contact, then user will be able to see the contact page, right? So what we will do here, just right after this navigation we will add a div, that would be a container div, and I can give a ID as a for, and we can give the ID for div as a main content. Okay, ID equal to main content. So what will happen, once user will click on this home link, then this home page is going to be render inside this main content, right? Once user will click on this contact link, then this contact page is going to be rendered inside this main content, right? So now let me just write the JavaScript. So here inside our script tag, we are going to write a function as a load home, right? And inside this function, we are going to find this div element. So what we have to write here, document.getElement by id, and we will give this id, right? So that id is main content, and we will pass this whole contact and home page inside this main content. So here we will give as a inner html, and inside this inner html we will pass the object, right? And we'll have the closing tag for this object, and inside this object we will provide the type. So type would be text html. So here we will give text slash html, and then we have to provide data, and data would be our this home page, right? So here we will provide our home.html page. And also we can add a style over here as a width 100%. So here I can just give style, and width would be 100%, right? So width, that's it. And similarly we will write another function to load contact, right? So here we will give load contact, and here we will give the contact.html, right? And also these two load home and load contact functions should be called on click of this home and contact link, right? So here we are going to use on click event. On this event we are going to call load home functions, right? And similarly we will call this on click event over here on contact link as well, right? I'll remove this, right? So now let's see if it's working fine or not. So once user is going to click on home link, we are able to see home page, and once user is click on contact, it's not loading. Let's see what is the issue we have. Yeah, so here we have to use the load contact function. Now save it and see. Yep, now it's loading the contact page and we are loading the home page. So here what I can do, I can separate this script from this index page. So I'll copy this whole thing. I'll create a separate file here as a main.js, and I'll put everything over here, right? And then I'll give the reference of that main.js file reference as a source equal to slash main.js, right? That's it. Now see, if user click on home, we are able to see the home page, and user click on contact, we are able to see the contact page, right? So at least now we have a very basic application in HTML and JavaScript, and we are using CSS from our bootstrap, right? And now we'll come to the main purpose of this video, which is creating a Docker file for the application. So now let's understand first what is the Docker file and what all the set of instructions and commands that we are executing inside our Docker file. So Docker file is a text document, okay, that contain all the commands a user could call on the command line to build an image. And Docker can build image automatically by reading the instruction from a Docker file, and a Docker file consists of various instructions and arguments used to define the image. Okay, it's very simple. Now let's see how the Docker file look like. So basically here we have a Docker file, and always remember that a Docker file always having a name as a Docker file. Okay, we cannot have any different name. So if you see here inside the Docker file, we are giving some set of instruction 1, instruction 2, instruction 3, instruction 4, and so on, right? So this from, work directory, copy, run, export, cmd, these all are the commands and set of instructions that is being used by the Docker engine once we are building an image from this Docker file. Okay, so what will happen once we execute the command to build an image, Docker engine is going to read the instruction line by line, right? And it execute instructions in a sequential manner. Okay, so first it will execute this command, and then after that Docker engine will execute this command, and once all the commands are getting executed successfully, then our image will be ready. Okay, and once image will be ready, then that image can run inside the Docker as a container. So mainly from would be the first command in our Docker file, where we have to define the base images. Might be you are using node, so we have to provide the node, or if you are using nginx, then we have to provide nginx. And Alpine it's a type of image that is smallest in size, optimized, and it's more suitable for the containerization world. And also we have to be give like work directory. We have to define this work directory inside our Docker container, right? I'll show you that how exactly this work directory are, all those things are getting defined. And then copy command basically copy each and everything from your local machine, local code to this work directory inside our Docker container, right? And then we are having a run npm install command. Command is used to install the dependency, and this expose command is basically for the documentation purpose to define what number of port that we are exposing to this application. And then finally the cmd command is used to execute start your application. Okay, I'll be using the same Docker file for our application that which we have created in JavaScript, HTML and CSS. Now there would be a question coming in your mind. Do we have only those commands? No, we have many more commands as well that we will use later on in this series. But let me show you that what all those commands are. So mainly we are using from that I mentioned you specify the base image for subsequent instructions, and it is typically the first instructions in the Docker file, right? And label basically add metadata to an image. It typically include information such as a maintainer or version and description etc. Okay, so this is just to add the metadata to the image. And run command execute in the cell during the build process, and it can be used to install the packages, dependency, scripts. Okay, command specify the default command to be executed when a container is launched. Okay, for that particular image. And entry point, right, specify the executable to be run when the container is start. Okay, unlike cmd command, and it cannot be overridden, but argument can be passed to it. Work directory, as I mentioned you, it defines the work directory inside our Docker container. And copy command is used to copy file from one location to another location, from your host to your Docker container. And add command is similar to the copy, but with the additional feature like auto extraction of compressed file and support for the URLs. Okay, and environment is it's a very important command which we have that is used to set environment variable within the container. And expose is mainly used for the documentation purpose only, to show what port is exposed outside of the container. And volume create a mount point with the specified name and mark it as a externally mounted. Okay, and it is used to enable access to the volume from other container on the host, right? And user basically set the user or user id that the container run when executing the command. Okay, last but not the least, argument. Okay, argument define build time variable. If you want to pass some argument to our container, we have to define inside our argument command, right? This is what all the commands that I know in our Docker file that we are using. If you know any other commands, please let me know in the comment section, so I'll also get to know, but mostly I'm using all these commands in the Docker file. Now the next step, let's create the Docker file in our application, right? Now we will come to the Docker file and we will remove all these commands which are auto generated. Okay, and I'm going to use the same command that I have explained you earlier. So now let me quickly tell you that here we are using the from in order to create our base nginx image. And then after that, we are configuring our work directory inside our Docker container. And then we are copying all these files from our host machine to our Docker container. So this dot is a root directory from our host machine, and this is our container directory, right? And as of now, we don't have any dependency for this application, so we are not required to install anything for now. So I'll just comment it. And this expose 80 is just showing that this application is going to run on port 80, and this is just for documentation purpose. Okay, and finally we are going to execute our cmd command, and we are passing the nginx command in order to execute this application on nginx web server, right? So our Docker file is ready to build an image. So now let's create an image from this Docker file, and now we will run the build command in order to generate the image from this Docker file. Okay, so now let's open the terminal. So now let me open another new terminal here. Right. So in order to build an image, we have a command from Docker as a Docker build. Very simple. And then we have to give the tag name here, tag, and we are going to give the name of the image. So we will give as a Docker HTML app. Okay. and then we have to give the path for this Docker file, right? So Docker file is there at the root directory. So here we will just give as a dot, right? And now once I press enter, then Docker engine is going to read the each and every instructions from the Docker file and execute all those instructions and build an image. Okay, so now let's see that. If I press enter, so it's showing an error during the connect. This error may be indicate that Docker daemon is not running. Okay, so my Docker engine is not running. So let me start my Docker engine. So now here you can see my Docker engine is getting started. My Docker engine is started now. And so for now, we don't have any image as well as we don't have any container, right? So now let's run the command once again. Now let me make it a bit bigger. So see, now each and every instructions is getting executed. So from Docker, this is going to take the nginx alpine image from Docker Hub because we don't have the image in our Docker as of now. So it's pulling nginx image, and then after that, it's set the work directory as a user share nginx HTML, and then it's copying all those files from our host machine to this directory, and finally it's exporting to the image, and then image got ready, and it's naming it to the Docker HTML app, right? So our image got ready, and how we can check that? We can just write Docker images command, sorry, Docker images. Oh, sorry, it's my mistake. Docker. So here you can see we have a Docker image which is having a size of 42.6 MB, right? And it's created a 1 minute ago. And this image name is a Docker HTML app. And same thing we can verify inside our Docker. So let's see here. See, now we are able to see this Docker image inside our image section. But this image is just a blueprint, okay, like a class. But we need to instantiate this image in order to execute our application inside a container. Okay, now let's see how we can do that. So there are two options here. Also we have a run command. Here you can just click on this, and inside this you can provide the container name, like I can give here as a Docker HTML app, Docker HTML app container, right? And I can give port as a 80 port, and I can run it, right? So as soon as I run it, you can see now inside the container, I can see there is a container created here inside our image section. Image is there, and inside the container section you can see the container is created. Okay, and now my application is running inside this container. We can see that if we see open the port 8080, you can see my application is running inside the container now. Okay, and this application is responsive as well, and this can work in the mobile as well. It's interesting, right? Now our application is running inside the container. Now let's see how we can run through the Docker command. So what I'll do, I'll just remove this container for now, and I'm going to create a container from the Docker command. Okay, so the command that we have to use for in order to create the Docker container is docker run. Then we have to give the name of the container, right? Name Docker HTML app container. Okay, now it would be running on a detached mode, so -d, and then we have to give the port also. Port, we have to provide the external port and internal port from the Docker. And finally, we have to give the image name. So image name which we have as a, so image name here we have a Docker HTML app, right? Now press enter. Now here you can see there is a container created with this container ID. Now let's see how we can verify. We have a command as a docker ps, right? PS is nothing, PS is a processes. Don't worry about all those commands. I'm going to create a very separate video right after this, where I'm going to explain about all the useful Docker commands that we are using on a very regular basis. So here Docker PS is nothing, it's just to show the processes running on the Docker. So Docker PS, it's going to show you the list of all the container which are running inside your Docker, right? So this is the container which is running inside the Docker. Now if we run this our application inside our, now just refresh it and see our application is still running and it's working as expected. Amazing, isn't it? Now let's see more about the container and its folder structure. So let's go to my Docker desktop, and here inside this container section we have a container, and once we click on this container, We will go inside this container and we can see the log for this container, right? In the second tab, we can inspect this container and we can see the information about the platform, command, state, image, right? And then after that, we have bind mounts. If we have mounted any volume, then we can see that mount information over here. And in this execute tab, if you want to execute something inside the container, we can execute it from here. This is nothing. This is our command prompt inside our Docker container. And so here we have the list of all the folders. And if you see inside the user, we have a share, and inside the share we have nginx, and nginx inside we have html, right? So if you see, all those files are being copied over here from my application, right? If you remember that we have copied all those files inside user, share, nginx and html folder, right? And finally we have a stat tab. So inside the stats you can see how much cpu is being utilized and how much memory is being utilized here. And here you can see how much disk read and write operation is going on. And here you can see information related network input and output, right? Now let me quickly summarize that what we have learned so far in this video. So first of all, we have created a very basic JavaScript application where we have created our index file, home file and contact file by using our main.js JavaScript file. And then after that, we had created a Docker file on top of our application. And from this Docker file, we have created an image inside our Docker. So here you can see, here we have created an image. And once image was ready, then after that, from this image, we have created a container, right? And in this container, our application is running. And also we have seen where the Docker log is getting generated and how we can inspect, mount, and where we can execute command inside our Docker container, and where we can see all those file structure for our Docker containers. And also we have seen how we can see the stats for our Docker container. So friends, as I earlier mentioned that I'll be creating a simple Angular application as well as Node application. And on top of that, I'll be creating Docker files for them and then building image and running those images inside the Docker container. But this video is being lengthy, so I'll be covering that part in our next video. And finally friends, if you have learned something from this video, then please don't go without subscribing this channel, and please like, comment and share this video to your friends, because each and every comments, like and share gives me a lot of moral support and confidence to make the videos for you like this. And also press the bell icon so you will get the notification of all of my upcoming videos. So that's all for the day. I'll see you in my next video. Till then, take care and keep learning.